Hey guys, welcome back to my series on restoring classic late 40s American black and white electrostatic televisions. In this series I'm going to be pointing out some of the differences between these sets and the more common magnetically deflected sets, give you some tips, some tricks, some suggestions, some pitfalls to avoid to get these up and running. I replaced the coupling cap into the video amp, the coupling cap out of the video amp, and the AGC cap. And we still have a ton of interference, right? Now this is with a test pattern. Let me flip over to some actual broadcast material. You can see how bad that interference really is. However, I suspect that at least some of this is because we're using an unshielded picture tube. Remember, the picture tube that came with this had a metal shield over the middle of it. So let's do some experimenting. For starters, now that the set's functioning fairly well, let's install the picture tube that came with it, because we haven't actually tried using it yet. And I'd like to know sooner than later if there are any problems with it. We tested it with a Suncor CR70, but we haven't actually tried using it in the set. So now we have a CRT installed that has the shield on it. So let's see if that helps any, and see what kind of images can actually produce. After this, I'm going to have a little surprise for you. A package arrived in the mail. We're going to play around with something. That's still pretty bad. Just kind of pushing on things around here. Alright, now remember, we haven't replaced most of the paper caps, and some of them are bypass caps, which, well, help bypass noise to ground, so that could very well be where some of this is from. But good to know that this works. And let's see what the brightness of it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Obviously a little hard to judge with the very, very harsh interference. Alright, so we got some work to do. Alright. But we're receiving an image that, well, interference aside, looks pretty good. And we haven't done really all that much work, so that's fantastic. Alright. Now, I've been using this 7-inch 7VP1. There's also a 7JP1 green phosphor CRTs for oscilloscopes. While working on these sets, as I mentioned earlier, they're pretty hard to find, but there are other options. So I ordered one of them up, and we're going to give it a try right now. It is a little 3-inch oscilloscope CRT, like they used in some early budget oscilloscopes. But guess what? It has the same big old 14-pin base with exactly the same pinout as a 7JP1. Now this is a 3BP1. I looked up the specs on it, and the maximum anode voltage is only 2200 volts versus 6000 for the 7JP1. Which got me concerned about using it. However, I'd heard from some of you that, yeah, you've used them. So I did a little more research, and I saw some other folks had the same concerns about using it, and even went so far as to modify the voltage divider to cut down the voltage going to it. And then other folks chimed in saying that the electron gun used in this is actually identical to that used in the 7JP4. Now, I don't know how they know that exactly, but several people chimed in saying that they just use it straight with no modifications and it works fine. Which got me thinking that electron gun may be identical, but the reason they would have the lower high voltage specs isn't that they're worried about things shorting out down here, 'cause it still has that large diameter neck and all that, is that the screen is much smaller and it's shorter, meaning if you put 6,000 volts on it, you're going to be hitting this phosphor with some really energetic electrons, and you could wear it out a lot faster. But we can turn the brightness down. I'm not going to be using it sporadically anyways. We also might have an issue with the deflection plates. We might be putting way too much voltage on them and it's going to be shooting way off the screen. But hey, let's just give it a try and see what happens. So, here we go. I just ordered this off eBay. It's used, but I think lightly used. It looks pretty clean. It was 20 bucks. Alright, I'm going to dot. I'm going to turn it down. And it's freaky to look at. Now, those of you who have the little pilot electrostatic 3-inch sets, this might be more familiar to you, but for me, seeing a screen this small is weird. But yeah, it absolutely works. And it's not over-scanning it, actually. Let me zoom in for you. Yeah, it works just fine. Albeit tiny. Now, I wouldn't want to be making exacting tweaks to the linearity or whatnot with something this small, but yeah, it works. Let's go back to a test pattern. We still have horrible interference, but hey, look at that. So that is absolutely a viable option, and of course it's small and lightweight, so much easier to maneuver around the workbench. So that is very cool. So there's another option for you. I believe a 3FP7 will also work, or maybe there's a 3FP1. Those are for radar, and they do have an anode connection coming out the side up front, but I'm not so sure that's necessary. And we're gonna try that out right now, because I do have another one. I think I teased this early on in the first installment of this series. I've had another CRT for years that I've never plugged in, but I've been very curious to try it out. It's also a 3-inch CRT. It also has the same base. But this is from the 3JP family, and it does have an anode connector up here, but it still uses a high voltage here, so it actually has, they call it A, so there's an A1, an A2, and an A3. That one we just used only goes up to A2, but this has A3, but, so it has a high voltage connector on the back that takes, on pin 9, it takes like 2,000 volts or 1,500 volts, and then this final accelerator is 2,500 or something like that. And the same with that giant one I showed at the beginning of the series, the 12-inch. So it's like a post accelerator right at the very end. But I'm curious, if we don't connect it to anything, can we get something on the screen? So what I'm really curious about is, this is not a P4 phosphor. It's not a P1 phosphor. It's not a P2. It is a P12. I'm not going to tell you what that is. We're going to hopefully see a glow on it. There we go. Wow, that works way better than I thought without that final anode being connected to anything. It is orange. It looks yellowy in the blue in the viewfinder, but it's very orange, amber up front. This may be the same phosphor they used in the good old days, the 70s, early 80s, with computer terminals, amber screens. So some early computers, it is kind of nice on the eyes, easy on the eyes. Well, the other curious thing about this is it's not long persistence like P7 radar, but it's longer than P1 or P4, meaning as things change, there's going to be a delayed effect. So let me switch to a different test pattern. Oh yeah, that is so cool. Get that centered a little better. Tweak the linearity. We're got a little bit egg-shaped there. And unless my eyes are deceiving me, there's a little bit less interference on this. As this has a shield that goes all the way from one end to the other. But it also confirms that the interference is, or it seems very likely it's coming through electrically and not being picked up via electromagnetic fields, because this whole thing is shielded. And we're still seeing that interference. Let's flip over to the broadcast material and see how freaky that looks. Oh, the joys of digital reception. It's been a stormy day, so having a little bit of trouble getting a good signal down here in the basement. There we go. It's a little hard to see with the interference because it's so small. So it's not, like I said, it's not a huge difference with the persistence, but it is a little bit longer than you would see normally. So there you go, you have options. Now, what about a 5-inch CRT? Yeah, there's an early CRT, one of you on my Patreon filled me in, clued me in. Oh, good, there's some nice streak effects. Early Dumont and Tektronix scopes used it. I'll double check in a moment. I think it's a 5CP1. Would also work in this. I think that's the only 5-inch CRT that has the 14-pin base that's compatible. I think there might be one or two other in the 3-inch family. And that's it as far as I know. Maybe there's some 9-inch. So if any of you CRT enthusiasts out there know of any that have the large 14-pin base, I'd be interested to know. I have collected CRTs over the years, sold a few, lost a few, but I do have a box in storage. Someday I'll have to go root around in there and see what else I've got. But yeah, that's very cool. So I think for a while now, I'll try using that 3BP1, see how it goes. Alright, so what are we going to do next? Well, I'll tell you what. The point of this series was to give you folks that haven't worked on one of these sets before some insight as to how they work and some of the peculiarities that you should be aware of, like the high voltage caps and whatnot. But I want to get this fully working. So what I want to do next is replace the remaining paper caps. However, I'm not going to go through and replace them one by one and tell you what they do and all that, because what's left in here is conventional. It's the same tuner using a magnetically deflected set, the audio circuits and all that. It's nothing out of the ordinary. just going to clip out these caps and replace them. So I'm just going to blow through and replace what's left in here, and then we'll pick up. I'm hoping along the way, by replacing some of these caps, the noise is going to go away. But if not, then we're going to dive into troubleshooting. So what I'm hoping when we pick up is I'll be close to wrapping this up. I want to give you a few more pointers on some things to do to get the best performance out of this set. And then we're going to look at some modifications that apply to this and to other sets to add things like vertical retrace blanking and DC restoration to actually get it looking better than it did when it was new. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.